neurotransmitters. Now, sometimes you learn about things and you don't know how or why at first, but you know deep down that this information can help people, that this information can potentially change the world if it's disseminated in a fashionable, appropriate way. And neurobiology is one of those things for me. I first learned about it my sophomore year of college in one of my psychology classes, and it just amazed me about how much control we have over our mood, our energy, our thoughts, and how much of that is related to food. And I'm not saying like eating healthy or eating greens or berries or just going to solve all your problems, but it goes a long way to giving you the energy and the tools you need to be able to manage life's day-to-day stresses a bit better. First, to understand neurotransmitters, you have to understand what happens when your system is out of balance. Now, imbalances in neurotransmitters cause things like stress, being tired, unmotivated, depressed, and one of the primary causes of this is too much stress. If you're working 24/7 and never taking a break, never taking the time to relax, then your body burns through all of its dopamine and norepinephrine and glutamate, and then you're going to be operating with the bare minimum, which is when people become very moody, very angry, irritable. So that leads to getting sufficient sleep is one of the most important things you can do, because it allows your body to turn the proteins into neurotransmitters and heal from the day and restore. And the research often says that getting enough sleep is even more important than exercise or nutrition. But also, nutrition is a very essential part of it, because if you're not eating the proper vitamins and minerals, then your body doesn't have what it needs to be able to create the dopamine and oxytocin and serotonin. And a big factor that throws people's systems out of whack is addiction. If you're smoking cigarettes and drinking alcohol, that burns through your dopamine and Gaba and things like that. For example, if you're getting drunk, that floods your system with Gaba and dopamine, which feels great in the moment and you feel relaxed and able to be more social. But then in the following morning and the following days, your body has burned through all of that Gaba and dopamine, so you're likely to feel very unmotivated. Now, first I'm going to talk about dopamine because that's the one people are most familiar with, but it's not necessarily the most important. Now, dopamine fuels your motivation. It kind of gives you this pleasurable feeling as you're working towards your goals. Now, often people will advise you to break down your goals into smaller steps. Dopamine sort of gives you this feel-good feeling during the smaller steps along the way. It's not necessarily the reward neurotransmitter like many people say. The feeling of reward is more of a combination between dopamine and GABA. For example, like say you're putting all this energy into this project and then you get to the end of the project and you're finished. People would generally think that means you get this big hit of dopamine and it's over. But really what happens when you accomplish a goal is your body is also flooded with GABA, which is the relaxing neurotransmitter. And so when you achieve your goal, it is a very pleasurable and relaxing feeling. And one of the things about dopamine is it has an inverse relationship with norepinephrine, which is your attention neurotransmitter. So the key is to kind of balance dopamine and norepinephrine if you want to achieve kind of a sustained flow of focus and motivation and hard work. Now, a great way to trigger dopamine is to visualize your goals, but that's not necessarily the best route for some people. In my opinion, the best way to get your dopamine flowing is to just start working on the goals, because if I waited until I felt motivated to go to the gym, I would never go. But once I get to the gym and I start lifting weights and doing cardio, then the dopamine and the endorphins and oxytocin start flowing, and then I have all this new energy available to exercise. So don't wait to feel motivated to start working on your goals. Now, these are the main nutritional building blocks of dopamine. And as I go through the neurotransmitters, you're going to see a lot of overlap between the foods. Like, obviously, you should be eating greens and fruits and nuts because they kind of build all of it. So you want to have a diet high in magnesium and tyrosine. And the main foods you can eat for dopamine are chicken, almonds, apples, avocado, bananas, chocolate, green vegetables, green tea. And all of this stuff is affordable and at every grocery store. So it's not a complicated quest to build your dopamine. Next is Gaba. Gaba is your main relaxing neurotransmitter. And like, as I mentioned with dopamine, it is a huge part of the reward feeling because it relaxes you after you've been expending all this energy working on your goal. And 40% of all synapses and neurons in your brain work with GABA. So if your GABA is all out of whack, you're going to have a hard time calming down. It throws your entire system out of balance. So it's very important to maintain healthy levels of GABA. And you can release GABA via deep breathing, walking in nature, warm showers, reading a book. It's not rocket science, but it's extremely helpful in anything you do, because if say you're working on a stressful project and you're flooding yourself with stress hormones and dopamine and glutamate, you need that GABA to relax, or else you're just going to be too jittery to actually get any work done. Now, you'll see some overlap here with the building blocks of dopamine. For GABA, you want to eat brown rice, yogurt, bananas, tomatoes, potatoes, leafy vegetables, nuts, and lima beans. Now, the next one is serotonin. So, balances your mood. That means, say you're stressed or angry or irritable, serotonin comes in and kind of balances that out. Or say you're just kind of flat and not feeling much at all, then serotonin brings you up a bit. And it has a interesting relationship with your sleep, because serotonin converts into melatonin in your body. So if you're not maintaining a proper diet and your body's not building serotonin, you're not going to be able to fall asleep easily because you have very low levels of melatonin. And 80% of serotonin lives and is made in your stomach, in your microbiome. It's essentially a byproduct of your microbiome. So if you're not producing sufficient levels of serotonin, then your body becomes inflamed, and like you're going to have digestive problems and all these other things. So to keep your microbiome happy, it's important to eat the proper building blocks of serotonin, or else you're going to have, your stomach's going to be very unhappy. And they've done some interesting studies that when people reflect on what they're grateful for and kind of just take a step back and reflect on the good parts of life, that causes the microbiome to produce more serotonin. Now, again, there's overlap. To produce serotonin, you want to be eating whole wheat, potatoes, brown rice, oats, and beans. Now, this next one, oxytocin, is my favorite one. And it's usually thought of as being heavily present in romantic relationships, but it's actually much more versatile than that. It helps us bond with our friends, our family. It's very, like when you listen to, love, romantic music and stuff like that, your body releases oxytocin. And they did a study where people singing in a group of friends, just at a bar or whatever, singing in a group increased oxytocin production by about 60%. So it just kind of bonds us with the people around us. And you can do that via quality time, hugs, exercise, anything that has to do with a social setting, that's going to release oxytocin. And social psychology, I learned about a very interesting phenomenon called imagined presence. So say the person you love is 2,000 miles away and, you're feeling lonely and low on oxytocin. Thinking about that person does the same thing to your brain as if they were actually there in front of you. So if you're feeling lonely, just think about and reflect on the people you love, even if they're far away, and your brain will release oxytocin and you'll feel a bit less lonely. Now, again, there's overlap, and vitamin D, C, and magnesium are the main components of building oxytocin, and along with blueberries, broccoli, avocado, yogurt, and leafy vegetables. Now, norepinephrine is sort of your focus neurotransmitter. It gives you energy, but it also has an inverse relationship with dopamine. So as you increase one, the other decreases. So the key to sustained, motivated work is to balance the two. And that can be tricky, obviously. And the people often talk about the flow state, and the flow state is really just when your body has balanced the two along with Gaba, because, like, as I said, you need to be relaxed if you want to do sustained, complex work. And norepinephrine is a big component of that. And the building blocks are bananas, beans, chicken, cheese, chocolate, eggs, and fish. Again, all easy to find at the grocery store and work into your weekly diet. Now, for the conclusion, they all work together. Like, it's not like you produce one and then the other goes away, but really you have dozens of neurotransmitters working together at all times. So if there's no like blood test or anything like that to see like what your levels of neurotransmitters are. So you kind of have to base it on your mood, because your mood and your feelings and thoughts are pretty reflective of your neurobiology underneath. And really the brain needs balance for optimal functioning. So if you're, putting in energy into something 24/7, that's going to exhaust you. So you need to take the time to relax and let your body restore and let GABA and serotonin do its work and restore you to your optimal state. And really, in my opinion, the best thing you can do for your neurobiology is to have healthy relationships and friendships, because not only does having positive, uplifting people around you increase your dopamine and oxytocin and serotonin and everything really. Your friends can also encourage you to exercise and eat healthy and let go of negative relationships in your life. So really the message here is practice healthy habits and appreciate and love your friends. Thank you. Any questions?
How do you practice this in your life?
Well, I mean, it's definitely nothing overnight, but like I'll try to work like broccoli and carrots and such, and like when I make chicken, or like I try to go to the gym like 5 days a week, and the gym's really just great for all of your neurotransmitters because you're sweating out like cortisol, which is what we think of as stress, and you're in a social setting, so you're increasing oxytocin. Like dopamine starts flowing when you're exercising, so exercise is great for all of it. So that's my main way of practicing good mental health.